Excellent explanation on security. Let's shift gears to architecture. Can you explain the repository and unit of work patterns in .NET and how you've applied them in a real project?
Certainly. Both repository and unit of work are classic design patterns I rely on to separate data access logic from business logic, especially in large .NET applications. Let me explain this with an example from a healthcare appointment booking system I worked on. This system involved managing multiple entities, like patients, doctors, appointments, and prescriptions, all backed by different tables in the database. At first, we injected the DB context directly into our services. But as the project grew, things got messy. There were scattered save changes calls across services, and it became hard to write unit tests because there was tight coupling with entity framework. So we introduced repository and unit of work patterns to clean up our architecture. Let me start with the repository pattern. We created a generic repository interface that handled basic CRUD operations. Imagine something like this. It had methods to get an item by its ID, get all items, add a new record, and delete an existing one. We'd say, iRepository of T, where T is a class, with methods like getById, getAll, add, and remove. Then for each entity, like patient or doctor, we created a specific repository implementing this interface. We also added custom methods. For example, in the doctor repository, we had something like GetAvailableDoctorsByDate. That method accepted a date and returned doctors who were not booked. So the repository layer became the single place for all database queries, keeping the services clean. Now coming to the unit of work pattern. Instead of calling save changes from different services, we encapsulated it in a single method inside a unit of work class. The method was called complete, and it looked like this. It's simply called the save changes method of the database context. We would say, public integer complete, return context.saveChanges. Then we registered this unit of work in dependency injection and injected it into our services. So during a patient booking, when we added a new appointment and updated doctor availability, we simply called await unit of work.complete tsync, and the whole operation was committed in one go. This ensured we had transactional consistency. Now let me tell you the impact. Using these patterns gave us clean separation of concerns, easy to mock repositories for testing, reduced risk of partial database updates, and much more maintainable service classes. In fact, our code base became far easier to onboard new developers onto because the responsibilities were clear and modular. So, to summarize, I used the repository pattern to abstract and centralize database queries, and the unit of work pattern to commit those operations in a single transaction. It really shined in our healthcare system, making the backend both robust and scalable.